Hey everyone, Kelly Dean Allen here. Today, by request, we're going to learn how to play Learning to Fly by David Gilmour and Pink Floyd. Now, despite the fact that this track does have 3 short guitar solos and a few short fills here and there, it's overall a very ambient and synth-driven affair. So there's very little guitar going on during the verses and also during the rather long mid-song section of the track, the part with all the layered pilot voices, atmospheric synths, and whatnot. Regardless, we're going to learn it all anyway, because apparently there are no proper tutorials out there on YouTube for this one, and it does have a couple of short classic David Gilmour solos in it, which, to be fair, is what most of us care about anyway. So let's get started, yeah? Alright then, so we are in standard tuning for this tutorial, and this track starts with a 3-finger G power chord. You're going to strike that G power chord, and then you're going to choke it off. Kind of like that, right? And then we're into this. So we're grabbing a little triad here, a little bar at the 12th fret of the D, G, and B string. Strike that, move it up 2 spots to A, pick it a couple of times, and slide it back. Right, and then choke that off. G, slide that little triad up, G to A, and then back to G, right? And then we're off to E, an E power chord. Not a whole lot of guitar going on here during the first verse, like I said. And then we're going to go off to E, hit that E power chord, choke it off, do like an 8 count. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, back to G, right? That little lick again, that little slide, off to E again. And that's all that's going on during the first verse. G, sliding triad, off to an E power chord. Right? Now live, they will grab a quick D before dropping back into G, coming off of that E. They don't do it on the studio version, but live they pretty much do it every single time. Kind of like this. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Right? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, before dropping back into G. And then that little sliding triad, right? And then off to E again, right? And that's all that's going on during the first verse. And that goes on for 12 bars. And then we drop into the first chorus, which is a little bit abbreviated. We're going to drop into a C power chord, a 3-finger C power chord. Move it off to B, move it off to A. Up to G, off to F, back to C, up to D. And that's the first chorus, and then we're going to drop into the first solo at this point, right? So that's the first chorus. C, B, A, G, F, F, C, D, and then we're into the first solo. Right, so we're soloing in G major here, and we're grabbing a unison bend here on the 15 of the high E and the 18 of the B. Going to bend that B string a full step and slide out of it. Right, give it a little bit of a waggle while you have it up there. And then we're going to slide into 12 of the B. Grab the 15 of the high E and then pull it off to 14 without picking it. Right, you really want to yank that off. Grab the 15 of the B, pull it off to 12 into a full step bend to 15. Right, and give it some vibrato, and then we're into this. It's all getting kind of quiet at this point, right? 15 pulling off to 12, little bend of the 14 of the G off to 12. Slide that 12 into 14 back to 12. And then slide. Now we're going to start doing some sliding. We're going to slide into 12, release it off to 11. Slide it back to 11 actually. And then we're going to slide into a 9. Back to 7, slide it back to 9. And then release it off to the root note here on the 5th fret of the D. So that's the first solo. and then we're into the second verse. Kind of right into that, right? It drops right into G, while that note is, that root note is still ringing, right? They've already dropped into G, into the little sliding triad. And then there's that little fill line there. 14 of the G, give that a bend, grab the 15 of the B with your pinky, release that bend off to 12, and then 12, 14 back to 12 of the G, off to 11 back to 12. Pull that off, hammer on 11 to 12, and finish on the 14 of the D. All right, so that's that little fill line. And at this point, they're off to E, right? And then just before dropping back into G again, that little fill line there. So we're just grabbing a double stop here on the 19s of the G and the B. Hit those twice. And then drop onto the 20 of the B string and hit that twice. Along with the 19 of the G, right? And then slide out of that. So that's just a little fill. And then we're off to you know, that's all still going on while you're doing these little fill lines. And then just leading back into the next chorus, there's one final little fill line. That right there, 14th fret of the G, half step bend, release off to 12. And then 12, 14, pulling it back off to 12. Right? And you don't have time to play all of this on one guitar and get back into the C for the second chorus, but you could do that, I suppose. And then drop into C for the second chorus. B, A, G, F, F, C. Now we're going to stay in C. C, B, A, G, F. Now, during the second chorus and the final chorus, which is a little bit longer than the first chorus, we're going to go off to open from this F very briefly and then drop back onto the F before going into C. A, G, F, open, F, C, D. Right, so that is the second chorus. And it's all 3-finger power chords, right? Little mutes in between, right? Open, F, C, D. And then we're into the long 12-bar section of the track where it's like pilots talking and whatnot, and lots of synthesizers and not a whole lot of guitars. So we kickstart that with an F power chord here. We're just going to strike it twice, right? And then choke it off. And this goes on for 12 bars. Every 2 bars, I think, you know, you drop back onto that, palm muted, give it a couple of hits, right? And then we drop into the mid-song solo, very short. We're dropping into A minor for this solo. It goes like this. So, 7th fret of the G string, full step bend. Some nice vibrato. You're going to release it back to the natural note and pull it off to 5. Kind of like that. Quick kind of pre-bend release off to 5, right? And then this classic blues lick. So we're going to bend that 7 again, ride down the 5s, grab the 8 of the B on the way back up. Right back into another bend of that 7. Into this. So you're going to pre-bend that, or pre-release that bend again. Off to 5, grab the 7 of the D. Hit that 5 twice, hammer it on to 7. And then we're going to slide into 14. Catch the 14 of the high E string, back and forth twice, right? And then you just let that ring and then slide out of it. So that's that short mid-song solo. I should mention that this is in A minor. They've dropped into A minor at this point, so thus the reason we're in this position, right? And then we're into the third verse, which goes on for 12 bars, and there are no guitars during the third verse. So we drop back into the chorus again, the longer chorus, like the second one. C, B, A, G, F, F, C, stay in C, C, B, A, G, F, open F, C, D, and then we're into the outro solo. Right, and that's the end of the track right there. It's all fading out at this point. All right, so we're back into these unison bends again to start the outro solo, starting it the exact same way. 15, 18 of the high E and the B, right? Full step bend, lots of vibrato, slide out of it, right? And then you're going to drop right back into it, bend it 3 more times. And then you're going to jump up to a unison bend on the 15, 17 of the B and the G. Bend the G string, full step, and slide out of that, right? And then drop right back into one final unison bend on the E and the B string. Kind of like that, right? That little bend there when you're jumping up to the unison bend on the B and the G, that's kind of tricky. Right, before going back to the E and the B string. And then we're into this. So we're sliding into 5 of the B along with the open E, same note, right? And then you're going to pick that 3 or 4 times, slide it back to 3, and then off to open. And then you're going to grab the 2 of the G, slide it into 4 along with the open B string because it's the same note you're sliding into, right? And then after you slide into that 4, you're going to catch the high E on the upstroke. And then you're going to grab the 2 of the G, pull it off to open, grab the 2 of the D, pull that off to open, back to the open G, pull the 2 of the D off to open again, and then you drop into a full G chord. Kind of like that, right? So that's that lick. And then we're back into the sliding triads again. And the little lick after the sliding triad at this point is a full step bend at 14, 12, back onto 14, roll up to the 14 of the D. And then we're into this. So now we're into some double stop work here. 14, 15 of the G and the B. Hammer on to the 16 of the G and release it back off to the 14, 15. And then back it up to a double stop on the 12s of the G and the B. And then back to the original position. Hammer on, release back to the 14, 15. Pause for a second and then do it again. And then release it back to the 12s again the second time. And then you roll up to the 12 of the D and pick it 2 or 3 times. Kind of like that, right? Little mutes, right, in between. And then we're into another sliding triad. And then from that little lick right there, just sliding into 14 of the D, down to 12, back to 14, roll down to the 14 of the G, back up to the 14 of the D, right? And then the final lick of the solo. We finish with a lick similar to that. So just a little bend of that second fret of the G, off to open, 2 of the D, back to open G. And then you're going to drop back onto that 2, pick it 4 or 5 times, and again, another little bend, release, off to open, grab the 2 of the D again, back to open G. And then you're going to slide into 4 of the G, catch the 3 of the B, slide that 4 back to 2, off to open, pull that 2 of the D off to open again, and then drop back into another full G chord. This is all fading out at this point. You can barely hear this, right? Right, maybe you can hear one final little sliding triad there, but right, so that is the outro solo. So let's take that one from the top nice and slow. And there you have it. That is how you play Learning to Fly, David Gilmour and Pink Floyd. Certainly hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. If you did, please hit that like button right down there. Maybe drop me a subscribe if you haven't done that already, as that would be very kind and helpful to the growth of my little channel. Anyway, you guys take care of yourselves. Hope you're well out there, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.